The third edition of the International Agricultural Investment and Technology Exhibition Agritech Expo 2025 will kick off in 2 days' time in the eastern city of Annaba, with 120 exhibitors from Algeria and abroad and 25 agricultural chambers affiliated with the National Chamber of Agriculture attending. Mohamed Khatil has more details in this report.
The event, held under the slogan Towards Technological Agriculture, Export Prospects, aimed to highlight the significant potential of the agricultural sector in Algeria as a lever for achieving food security and diversifying the national economy. Agritech Expo will showcase the latest innovations in precision agriculture, livestock farming, and agri-food processing. Tunisia will be this year's event guest of honor, which aims to strengthen intra-African cooperation within the framework of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Bilateral meetings, B2B, are planned for the occasion between various stakeholders, namely farmers, investors, experts, startups, and so on, in order to establish new partnerships. The exhibition is expected to attract more than 10,000 visitors, including professionals, academics, and students, in addition to diplomats from several African countries. Technical workshops and scientific presentations will be held by local and international experts on major topics such as strategic agriculture, the development of Saharan agriculture, and ways to improve production and processing. Agritech Expo 2025 will also pay a particular attention to environmental protection through workshops dedicated to recycling and recovering agricultural waste and producing renewable energy and fertilizers within the framework of the circular economy.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. A delegation representing the Algerian National Committee of Solidarity with the Sahrawi people will be attending tomorrow in New York a meeting of the Decolonization and Political Issues Commission devoted to the conflict in Western Sahara. In a communique, the committee said its members would plead for an effective and rapid organization and a self-determination referendum for the Sahrawi people as provided for by the international law and as repeatedly reiterated by the UN Security Council. The delegation's members will denounce Morocco's illegal occupation of Western Sahara, its repeated human rights violations of peaceful Sahrawi citizens, the deteriorating situation of Sahrawi prisoners. They will denounce the illegal spoliation of the Sahrawi natural resources, as well as the obstacles set by Kingdom, with the aim of undermining the UN-led peace process designed to find a fair and lasting solution to the conflict in Western Sahara. The Committee of Solidarity with the Sahrawi people will be joined by a parliamentarian delegation to reiterate Algeria's constant position, rejecting all forms of occupation and abiding by international law. Rallies have been staged by members of the Moroccan community in France and the Netherlands in front of their countries' embassies in Paris and Amsterdam to protest against the crackdown on demonstrations taking place in the kingdom over the past week. The demonstrators expressed their solidarity with the youth group behind the week-long protest movement in Morocco called Gen Z 212, whose initiators are demanding reforms in the country on various fronts, mainly the fight against corruption and a better education and health system. Dignity and freedom for the people was the main slogan repeated by the organizers of the rallies in Paris and Amsterdam, who also demanded that Moroccan officials be held accountable. The two rallies were preceded by a sit-in held Friday in front of the Moroccan embassy in Brussels, Belgium. The Brussels youth group expressed in a statement its desire to show solidarity and denounce repression and unjustified police violence, while reiterating that the initial demands focused on access to healthcare, education, and the fight against corruption. The brutal crackdown on protest in Morocco left at least 3 people dead, in addition to several arrests made by the police. In a statement released Saturday, the youth group, which presents itself as a group of free youth with no political affiliation, called for the demonstrations to continue in major cities across the kingdom. And as thousands of demonstrators rallies across Europe and in the United States to press for an end to the Israeli attacks on Gaza, the Israeli army pursued its bombardments of the territory, killing and wounding scores of Palestinians. According to the news agency Wafa, at least 6 Palestinians were today killed and several others wounded in the Israeli bombardments that hit various parts of the Gaza Strip. This brought to at least 57 the number of people who have been killed over the past 24 hours in the Israeli attacks. The Israeli army has intensified its attacks on the Gaza Strip despite US President Donald Trump's call for an immediate ceasefire in the aftermath of the Palestinian Hamas movement's response to his peace plan. Evoking the Israeli government's dilatory maneuvers, political analyst Saleh Abdelati had the following.
Yes, since President Trump declared the need to stop the bombardment on the Gaza Strip, Israel has accelerated the pace of its bombardment and aggression despite announcing that it stopped the operation aimed at occupying Gaza City and it will limit its operations to defense only. But these are purely lies. It is continuing its crimes against Palestinian civilians and continues destroying several parts of the Gaza Strip. Israel was confused by this response. It was hoping that the response of Hamas and some Palestinian factions would be no, so that it could get the support of the US president to complete its displacement and destruction plans in the Gaza Strip. Therefore, this response confused Netanyahu, who declared that the response is a no covered with a yes, and even if he said that he would send a delegation to negotiate on the matter, there is a disturbance on the Israeli side accompanied by an escalation aimed at undermining this agreement at any moment or finding approaches that guarantee the shifting of the ball from the Palestinian court to the court of Israel and the United States by the response of Hamas.
Meanwhile, UNRWA Commissioner Philip Lazzarini once again called on the Israeli occupying authorities to lift the ban they imposed on the UN agency's activities in the Gaza Strip. In a message posted on social networks, he called for a lifting of the blockade to allowing UNRWA personnel and humanitarian supplies to support their Palestinian colleagues during such a critical moment. In this respect, the UNRWA Commissioner stressed the necessity to put a halt to the Israeli bombardments to pave the way for a permanent ceasefire. This came as rallies have been staged over the weekend in London, Paris, Rome, Dublin, Madrid, Barcelona and the US state of New York to press for an end to Israel's war on Gaza. Thousands of demonstrators chanted slogans denouncing the Israeli continued occupation of the Palestinian territories and the genocide perpetrated in Gaza. The protesters also called for an arms embargo to be immediately imposed on Israel to force it to stop the genocide perpetrated in Gaza. Activists on board the Global Summit flotilla detained while trying to reach Gaza by sea have returned to their home countries to describe the abuse and humiliation they were subjected to by Israeli guards. Mohammed Khatel has the details.
Some 450 activists were arrested as Israeli forces intercepted the Global Summit flotilla, made up of 42 boats seeking to break Israel's naval blockade on Gaza and deliver a symbolic amount of aid to the famine-stricken territory. Those detained between Wednesday and Friday were brought to Israel, while many remain in prison. Meanwhile, several French and Belgian activists who were forcibly taken by the Israeli authorities have begun a hunger strike to protest against their detention and the situation in Gaza. Belgium's Foreign Affairs Ministry said it was closely following the situation. It is worth recalling that the Global Summit flotilla, en route to break the Israeli blockade and deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza, approached Gaza waters on October 1st. The Israeli army attacked the flotilla, illegally seizing dozens of boats and ships and detaining hundreds of their passengers.
And with this last piece of news comes the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
The international event of the week.